The fourth and fifth episodes of Andor had some very fun Indiana Jones Easter eggs in Luthen's shop, galactic antiquities, and objects of interest. I love the Indy franchise almost as much as I love Star Wars, so today seems like the perfect time to go over 25 moments Star Wars referenced Indiana Jones and vice versa. I'm not gonna say it's every reference, I bet there are some I don't know about, but this is a pretty comprehensive list that will hopefully include some Easter eggs you missed. Starting with the most recent references, Galactic Antiquities and Objects of Interest holds 3 treasures from the Indiana Jones universe. In the back room, Luthen has a few items encased in carbonite. The very front piece is the whip of Indiana Jones. Right behind it, you can see the fertility idol from the start of Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's harder to make out, but adjusting the image makes it pretty clear. That's not a first for the little golden idol either, because it can also be seen on Dryden Voss's yacht in Solo: A Star Wars Story. I guess Luthen got his hands on it after Dryden's death. Maybe Kira or Maul started pawning some stuff off to fund Crimson Dawn. Back to Luthen's shop, on a shelf next to some holocrons, you can see the Sankara stones. They were the main treasure in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. They were first seen in Episode 4, blurry and in the background, so I wasn't sure at first, but Episode 5 made the reference clear, literally. In Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indy races to collect the Lost Ark of the Covenant before the Nazis. Star Wars has its own version, the Ryloth Ark, a Twi'lek treasure that can be seen in the background of an episode of the Clone Wars. After being looted from the Twi'lek homeworld of Ryloth, it eventually found its way onto an Imperial cargo ship stranded above the planet Winkathu. The actual Ark from the Indy universe could at one point be seen in Dak-Ondar's Den of Antiquities on Batuu in Galaxy's Edge. Building off of the Ark, at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, the treasure is sealed away by the US government in a box labeled 9906753. The Force Awakens Incredible Cross-Sections reference book says there is a locked cargo container with that same number located on Han and Chewie's freighter, the Eravana. The implication is that the Ark would be locked inside. LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga recently included the Ark on the Eravana level as well. Sticking with Raiders of the Lost Ark, Marion has a medallion that is also the headpiece to the Staff of Ra, which Indy uses to find the Ark's resting place in Egypt. The headpiece and the staff can be seen in the Clone Wars episode The Gungan General as an accessory and eventual grave marker for Senator Karras. The Clone Wars has several Indy references. In the episode Hunt for Zero, Cy Snoodles makes her animation debut in a big musical number that is reminiscent of the big musical number that opens up the film Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. In another episode, Children of the Force, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Mace Windu make a narrow escape out of a closing door. Mace drops his lightsaber and uses the Force to retrieve it just before the door closes. That's similar to Indiana Jones barely rescuing his whip in Raiders of the Lost Ark, or barely rescuing his hat in Temple of Doom. Indy has a lot of run-ins with slowly closing doors. In the episode Wookiee Hunt, a Trandoshan trophy room features several valuable items. Among them is the Crystal Skull from Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. A common misconception is that you can also see the skull in Dryden's yacht in Solo: A Star Wars Story along with the fertility idol. Not to be all, actually, that's the skull of Zim the Despot from the old Legends Han Solo adventure books. In the episode Friends and Enemies, after escaping Republic prison, Cad Bane is in need of a new hat. He briefly considers a familiar-looking fedora while inside a pawn shop. The episode The Disappeared Part 1 has some very strong similarities to the plot of the Temple of Doom, with the Frangal cult standing in for the Thuggee cult of the film, and instead of ripping out their victims' still beating hearts, they magically steal their life force instead. Moving on to another animated series, Star Wars Rebels, the Holy Grail can be seen in the collection of Grand Admiral Thrawn, yet another admirer of the arts. So many Indiana Jones MacGuffins find their way into the hands of private collectors, but they belong in a museum. In the Season 4 episode Heroes of Mandalore, there's a speeder chase that is modeled after both the truck chase from Raiders of the Lost Ark and the tank chase from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. The Dr. Aphra comics features several Indiana Jones references, which makes sense because the character is a rogue archaeologist. In her very first appearance in the Darth Vader comics, she can be seen running from a large rolling droid. She barely makes it out alive, but she is stealing a weapon from a museum and claims that it belongs in an armory. Fans, including myself, have likened Aphra to Indiana, but really she's more like Belloc, the villain from Raiders of the Lost Ark. She is always seeking to claim treasure and power for herself, and recently it even resulted in her temporary death, although her face did not explode. In the first issue of her own comic, we see a man sneak into a temple and narrowly escape with its treasure, only to be shot by Aphra so she could take the artifact for herself. It's all very similar to the opening sequence of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Her ship, the Archangel, is also named after the Ark of the Covenant. Star Wars Legends stories have some fun indie connections as well. Some role-playing sourcebooks make reference to an archaeologist named Henrietta Antilles, also known as Corellia Antilles. Henrietta is a play on Indy's real name, Henry. Corellia is like the location-based nickname Indiana, and Antilles is a common name in the Star Wars galaxy, just like Jones is in the real world. One of Han Solo's mentors, a criminal named Garrus Shrike, sometimes went by the alias Genos Edanian, which is simply an anagram for Indiana Jones. In the Dark Nest trilogy of books, when Han Solo first meets the bug-like Killik species, he says, "Bugs, why did it have to be bugs?" Han was scared of bugs, and the whole situation is a reference to Indiana Jones's fear of snakes. When he saw that the Well of Souls was full of snakes and raiders, he delivered the similar line, "Snakes, why did it have to be snakes?" To which Indy's friend Sala replies, "Asps, very dangerous, you go first." I saved yet another Clone Wars reference for this moment because it makes the video flow so well. In the episode Prisoners, Kit Fisto comments on the dangerous creatures that swim around them by saying, "Eels, very dangerous." Jumping over to the Indiana Jones films, there are several references from them back over to Star Wars. Jock's plane at the start of Raiders of the Lost Ark is labeled OB-CPO in honor of Obi-Wan and C-3PO. You can see hieroglyphics of 3PO and R2-D2 in the Well of Souls as Indy and Sala discover the Ark of the Covenant. The beginning of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom takes place in a Shanghai club called Club Obi-Wan. And in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Indy delivers the line that's famously included in most of the Star Wars films, "I've got a bad feeling about this." George Lucas said he actually first wrote that line for Indiana Jones, but the character was so often by himself that he didn't have anyone to say it to, so he gave it to the characters of Star Wars instead. For some behind-the-scenes facts, there are several crossovers between the cast of both franchises. Julian Glover played General Veers in The Empire Strikes Back, and Walter Donovan in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Michael Shurd played Admiral Ozzel in Empire and Hitler in Last Crusade. William Hootkins played Porkins in A New Hope, and Major Eaton in Raiders of the Lost Ark. And there's this guy named Harrison Ford that was in both franchises too. Finally, I have to point out the comic Into the Great Unknown released in Star Wars Tales 19. It is not canon, even by Legend standards, but it shows Indiana Jones and Short Round discovering a crashed spaceship with a dead smuggler inside, and locals spread rumors of a Bigfoot-like creature that protected the site. And that's everything I know about. I am always excited to see my two favorite franchises crossing over, and it's cool that Andor has continued that tradition. I'm sure I'm missing some, so let me know if there are more I missed in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for all our Andor coverage, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and consider checking out our Patreon page for our video reactions and audio commentaries for every new episode. And you can check out this playlist for all of our existing Andor content. As always, thanks for watching, may the Force be with you, and remember, it's not the years, it's the mileage.